I've also had students who cannot handle failure. The act of failing brings them to tears. Welcome to your classroom coffee break. In this episode, prepare to fail. Might sound like an odd way to start an episode talking about failure. I'm John Van Dusen, a longtime teacher, coach, and Army officer, and we are going to repurpose a blog post that I wrote back in 2017. So in 2016, about 9 days before the school year started, I was hired at Kingsford to be the pre-K through fifth grade STEM teacher. Let me back up. I was the kindergarten through fifth grade STEM teacher. And in 2017, I also took on the pre-kindergarten. It was one of the most fun jobs I have ever had. When they hired me, they basically said, we don't have a curriculum. We were kind of hoping you could build it for us. So I had a lot of autonomy and I had just so much fun with those students. And when people ask what we do in my class, I would say, well, we build things and we break things. And that was pretty much it. And when I first took the job, I thought I'd be doing a lot more with technology. But what I quickly realized at Woodland Elementary is those general classroom teachers are fantastic at incorporating technology into their lessons and into their classrooms already. And I was actually behind because I hadn't taught since the winter of 2012, just before I went to Afghanistan. So on the technology front, I was actually playing catch up as the STEM teacher. So the way that would work is I would have one lesson for the entire week, pre-K through fifth grade. However, that lesson would be scaffold based on grade and ability level. Now, a lot of times the fourth graders and fifth graders would do something completely different just because they were so much more advanced. But specifically pre-K through third grade, we would do the same lesson. I would just vary its complexity. And a lot of it had to do with learning something about hurricanes, about apples, about space, and then we'd do some kind of project associated with that lesson. And some of my favorite lessons had to do with building bridges, stacking cups, building with blocks. And with a lot of those projects, we always built them to failure. We wanted to see how much weight the bridge could hold. We wanted to see how many cups we could stack before they fell over. And when I say we tested them to failure, I meant the structure failed. We did not. However, for some students, it was hard to tell the difference. So here's a blog post entitled Prepare to Fail. And I'll also post it down in the show notes if you'd like to read it. Prepare to fail. We all fail. We have to. In today's everyone gets a ribbon society, it's important to teach our children how to fail. That's right. I said we need to teach our children how to fail. I use failure in my classroom almost every day. The catch is learning how to fail. I can't find who said it, but a classic quote about failure says, show me a person who has never failed, and I'll show you someone who has never tried anything. It's pretty interesting to watch children fail. Most of the time there is a collective, oh, and then rebuilding begins immediately. I've also had students who cannot handle failure. The act of failing brings them to tears. It seems silly to some, but to have a block tower fall or a tin foil boat sink is a massive failure that is completely unacceptable. Then we see the waterworks. I fail all the time, literally every day, but I also try to do a lot of different things. I have several thoughts about failure, and I'll share a few here. First, if things aren't working and you try something that doesn't work, well, then you haven't lost anything. I use this all the time on the football field. When the defense I'm calling isn't working, I try something else. If that's not working, then I haven't lost anything. I fail more than I succeed, but when I succeed, wha-bam. For example, I had a team scouted very thoroughly. They then had their quarterback, who had been out for 4 weeks, come back and run a completely different offense. My middle blitz was not working at all, so I tried a stunt with my defensive line and tackle. Fail. So I tried an edge blitz on the short side of the field. Fail. After the second fail, I saw what was happening and started blitzing the wide side outside linebacker. Success. That combined with a stunt on the backside, and we completely shut down their offense. Wha-bam. Thought number 2. If I try and fail, at least I know what to do next. I use this a lot in the Army. Sometimes there's a feeling of, what do I do now? It's at this point that some people choose to not make a decision. I challenge leaders who work for me to make a decision faster. Once you make a decision and start moving, you can quickly see what needs to be done. I think of it like an old school GPS. When you're standing still, it may not be clear which way you need to go. But as soon as you start moving, it becomes clear on where you need to go next. Thought number 3, you failed. Good. What did you learn? I use this with children who can't handle failing very well. Through their tears, I attempt to have them tell me something they learned. Sometimes it's as simple as, I learned that I can't stack blocks that high. Sometimes they learn from another success. It's awesome to see students fail a few times and then succeed. Don't look now, but you're learning. My favorite phrases that I hear in this order in my STEM classroom are, this is impossible. Then, I can't do it. Then, I think I got it. Then, I did it. And lastly, this is easy. So when I hear those phrases come up, I really tried to remind those students who are saying, oh, this is easy. I want to say, hey, remember like 10 minutes ago, you said this was impossible. And now you're doing it. And not only are you doing it, but it's easy. Failing is a part of learning and a huge part of life. We need to teach our kids that they need to try. And if they try and fail, it's okay as long as they learn and they try again. And I think that last part is probably the most important. Just because you fail at something doesn't mean you're done with it, doesn't mean you quit. I was recently listening to a podcast where it talked about one of the special forces groups. I don't remember if it was a SEAL team or Delta Force, but they said they would do these halo jumps, these high altitude, low opening parachute jumps. And once in a while, they would have a parachute malfunction. And each one of these jumps was graded. So if the parachute malfunctions, they have a procedure where they cut away the main parachute, deploy their reserve, and they're fine. And they would go into the classroom and they would debrief that jump, see what happened, see how they could do better. Then they would give that soldier a few minutes to themselves, but they were to be on the very next plane going up so they could do that jump. So even though there was a failure, and almost a catastrophic, massive failure, the important part was to get up and try again. And when I listened to that podcast, it just reminded me so much of my STEM classroom, where say I'd give a group 20 plastic cups, and the goal was to reach as high as they could with the plastic cups. And obviously there was a ton of failure. I mean, they would get down, they would get blown over, and it's little kids, so they don't have a lot of fine motor skills. So cups are flying everywhere. But with something like that, as soon as the cups fell, they were right back to building it again and building it better. So I guess I say all of that just to communicate the point. Don't be content in your failure. But if you fail, and you will, it's okay as long as you learn from it. Down in the comments, let me know something that you have recently failed at, but learned and got better from because of that failure. And if you got any value from this episode, I ask that you like, share, and tell your friends so they can make the next Classroom Coffee Break.